Hi, this is Bill from Billboard Comics with another edition of The Girlfriend's Guide to Comic Books. This time around, I'm going to talk about pricing and value. Um, Basically, kind of like what makes a comic valuable and how you know you're getting a fair price for your books. Um, first and foremost, before we start anything like this, and I should mention this probably like in the first video of this segment series. Um, you need if you're going to buy something for your significant other, like a comic book or whatever, you need to find out what he is or her or they are into. Um, every collector is different. Everyone has different foibles and stuff like this. Certain collectors only collect Fantastic Four issues. So if you get them a comic book featuring Batman, they won't want it. Some people are exclusively only getting comic books that are graded and slabbed. Some refuse to get any comic books that are graded and slabbed. Some exclusively work on variants. Some wouldn't touch variants with a 5 foot pole. Um, all this will go into like what you might want to do when you think about pricing and value. Um, Using the variants, getting a 1 in 100 kind of variant would probably run into some good money. If there's a guy who just likes to fill holes in the collection and try to get runs, having you could get those probably filled up in a dollar bins for mad cheap. Um, if want to do like a kind of like basically um, a too long didn't read kind of version of what makes a comic book valuable, which will probably have absolutely no use to you whatsoever. Um, what makes a comic book valuable is what a collector is willing to pay for it. See what I mean? How's that going to help you? Absolutely not. Uh, but of course, you know, um, it is true. Basically, the values are set by the audience and the collectors and the market, and it changes from time to time. And it sometimes it changes from week to week, day to day. Certain time a comic book gets hot and people want to have it, can't have it, and demand becomes high. Other times it doesn't. Um, but if I had to boil it down to three main things, I'm called back to uh, a poster my wife had at her place of business. My wife had one of those posters in her wall, basically uh, about deliverables. Basically, she said like it's basically kind of like the other departments that come over asking her for some work. Do you want it cheap? Do you want it fast? Or do you want it good? Um, so, um, and on the bottom of it said pick two. This is the kind of thing that like also applies in my mind, perhaps not exactly perfectly to the world of comic books. What determines how what makes a comic books valuable is uh, is it in good condition? Is it rare, or does it have some sort of provenance to it? And if you think that provenance is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that little trio, you are absolutely correct. But um, that's the three basics of like what makes a comic book valuable. Just so you have a heads up on it. Notice I didn't say age. Age doesn't really have as much effect on the value of the comic book as you might think it is. Not as much as say rarity does. Let's say, for example, the uh, comic book example of Death of Superman. Death of Superman is was a craze that happened like the mid '90s, where DC Comics decided to kill Superman. It got nationwide, probably worldwide, news coverage. Every TV station covered it in some way, shape, or form. Um, there are people who never collected comic books in their life who knew Superman from various movies and TV shows and cartoons, learn about this and thought it was a very big deal. So they decided to go to their comic book shops and buy it. Around the same time as when Action Comics started, number one, started going for $1 million. Um, so a lot of these people who never knew comic books in their life decided to keep go. mortgage the house, buy boxes upon boxes of this issue of comic books because, hey, if the first appearance of Superman is worth $1 million, Lord knows in 30 years how much the death of Superman would be because he's never ever coming back. Um, of course, comic book collectors knew better because they knew like death is only temporary. Um, it is transitory and it doesn't really, you know, affect you to the world of comic books. Uh, but we knew that, but still people were buying it by the truckload. Um, the comic book sold over 6 million copies. A lot of it going to these boxes of these hoarders who decided to like, hold on to it. And every once in a while, you see like people trying to sell it online and like, or going to a comic book. You'll be in a comic book store when somebody brings a big box of them in, tries to sell them to them, and expecting thousands of dollars for this comic book. The sad fact, because it's 30 years old. It's been 30 years. I mean, yeah, sure, Superman came back and he's still around the comic books and he could buy his current adventures and all that jazz. Um, but these had to be worth something. There was much about like maybe $25 at most, $12 probably mid a median price, because 6 million of these copies went out. 6 million, like that means everybody who wanted one probably has one, if not more. Um, and these people are shocked. They have no idea like why this comic book was supposed to be so big. It's only, I'm granted, I think when it came out, it's only like worth like maybe $1.25, the actual cover price, somewhere around that, maybe more, maybe less. But it was still an improvement of price. But it's not like what they're expecting. It was like to be able to bankroll, bankroll their kids' college education, or buy a new house, or a vacation in the Seychelles or whatever. Um, a lot of the books from the 90s are coming out in now about 30 years old. And for the most part, you can find most of the 90s comic books in the dollar bins or 50-cent bins of your local comic book store or your local comic book convention. They're not very valuable because they're not rare. They were printed in such high numbers, even like Image and Valiant comics, along with the DC and Marvel comics. They printed so many copies of these. The market was flooded, and they are pretty much essentially valueless. You have one or two that came out here that kind of like value, that have like large print runs that are pretty valuable. The first appearance of Deadpool, for one, uh, New Mutants 1988, um, for instance, stuff like that would be like a higher grade. Um, but the question is, how would you know this as a casual collector or somebody who's trying to help their family or loved one buy these things? You want to buy a gift for them or something. How would you know what is valuable? Um, I remember like when my wife was buying me that Captain America set, she sometimes would let me know how much she paid for it. She was like, "Is that a good price for it?" Um, again, price is what the people are willing to pay. So every price is a good price, and every price could potentially be a bad price. But the thing is this: if you want to worry about like if you're paying too much for a book, there are certain ways you can check on what the book is about. Um, the industry standard for pricing is the Overstreet Price Guide to Comics. It's been published for like decades. It is like pictures like has a place behind the counter of every comic book in the country, more or less. I'd say that's with absolute certainty. Um, I could be wrong. There'll be one or two there out there like that who might not have it, but it is widely recognized as being the go-to thing of like pricing books. However, it only comes out once a year, and the comic book market is volatile, and it changes, like I said earlier, month to month, day to day, week to week. How do you keep up with this? And luckily, you don't have to worry about like most of the books are like you could go by the overstreet value. That's usually what the comic book uh, stores and dealers and vendors go by for their rank and file regular filler books. That's what I call them. Basically, there's stuff that you fill in runs or whatever. For the special ones, for the um, keys, which I'll discuss keys in a later video or another video. I don't know when you're watching this. You might have already seen the key ones already. Um, it fluctuates. So if your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, father, mother, son, daughter wants a key book, some one that they could, you know, like that is valuable that from the get go. If you want to know what the current price is, the best way to look at it is, and it's good for any book, but like I said, if you're going for like a Valiant, like hardcore number 3, looking up it this way, it's probably not worth it because you know what, hardcore number 3 isn't really that worth it. But if you want to say what the um, like say a slab copy of um, Hulk 181, First Appearance of Wolverine is going for, you could go to eBay. You type in Hulk 181, Incredible Hulk. Try to be as specific as possible. Try to put in a bunch of different ways because it could be put in there a whole bunch of different ways. Hulk 181 will probably get you most of what you need. Go over to the left side of the little thing and go scroll all the way down till you get to like little check marks and they say sold items. Hit that check mark. If you hit the check mark for the sold items, um, it'll tell you how much the comic book sold for in recent past. It'll give you a list of all the completed auctions, all the ones that sold. Maybe you get like a good idea of what the pricing is that way. A lot of comic book vendors for their key books, their hot books, they go over it that way. But let me go back to the 3 things I told you about. Rarity. Um, let's take Action Comics #1 for example. Action Comics #1, like I said, is old, but it's not exclusively valuable because it's old. It's the older comic books we have, like the Silver Age and the Golden Age. From like the Golden Age are from like the World War II era, Silver Age is from like the 60s. Are usually more expensive because of the mentality of collecting wasn't really strong back then. Basically, they were cheap, disposable entertainment, where kids or adults or whatever just like take it, read it, leave it behind on the subway, or take it, read it, roll it up into a ball, and um, like and like put in their back pocket and be done with it. Uh, Read it till the covers fall off, cut pictures out of it and put it in scrapbooks. They didn't really respect the comic books as something that's going to be viable later on, so there are less copies in good condition the last going on. So that's one reason why Action Comics #1 is valuable. Another, probably more important, is that it's the first appearance of a very important character. Um, Zatara Magician. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, even people who don't know comic books know that that's the first appearance of Superman. And Superman, like I said earlier with the Death of Superman, people who don't even read comic books know Superman. I think there's an anecdote saying that there are people who live in the remote regions of Africa who, you know, have heard of Superman. They don't even have like, you know, like any television or any satellite or anything like that, or anything like that. They're kind of like in a rural area and untouched by society, and still they even know who Superman is. Superman's the most famous comic book character in the entire universe. Um, Always has, always will be. So having his first appearance, that's an important key. Um, so that goes into the whole provenance thing. Provenance, like I said, it was a catch-all. It could be anything. It could be first appearance of a character. It could be a first appearance of a concept. It could be the first appearance of a important storyline. It could be a first appearance of, you know, like an artist or writer on it. There could be a whole bunch of reasons why there's something special that makes it a key. That makes it important. That separates it from the rest of the comic books in the series to make it more valuable. Like, so if you do a little prep work beforehand, taking this into consideration, knowing a little bit about like what you're going for, and like I said, this whole thing going in there as a casual thing is not going to be easy. But if you take a couple seconds to go on eBay and look stuff up, and go on to um, like find out why a comic is valuable and stuff, you can find that on making a Google search or whatever and stuff like this. Uh, it'll help you in the long run trying to find out what value is. Um, Another thing, how can like if you this probably still if you haven't know what's going on, it still might seem like you might feel like you're getting ripped off in certain aspects of like when you go to a dealer. And if you feel that, feel free to walk away because you know what, you don't owe them your purchase or anything like that. But they're reliable, long-lasting, dependable dealers who might have prices slightly higher than what you might find on eBay. Um, there's a whole lot more overhead if you go, like, say, a convention and buy like a copy of that Incredible Hulk 181 than you would if you did on eBay. eBay is, basically low effort for them. They have like they get the book, they have to put it in a, a box, send it off to you, and maybe put insurance on it, and the cost is like minimal. However, if they're trying to sell the same book at a convention, they have to pay gas to go to the convention, pay for a hotel room for like the 3 or 4 days of the convention, pay for the space for the convention. Uh, uh, in certain aspects where the convention center is run by union, have to pay a union to load in their stuff. So, um, yeah, it's going to be there might be a difference in price between that. So just be aware of that not everybody who has a higher price than what eBay has is trying to rip you off. Um, and a lot of times the people will make a deal with it if you want to. Basically, you can haggle with them. I'm not really good at haggling because I don't like to do that. But if you feel need that you can haggle with this stuff like this, and go ahead, go do it. A lot of times they give you a bonus if you're giving a whole bunch of books. Like say, like in my case of my wife with the Captain America stuff, she would buy like there's this vendor who's really great. I don't think he's doing it anymore. Called Coops Comics. I think it's operated kind of out of Pittsburgh. He was fantastic, and he was give like really high quality books. And my wife would buy them, and he would give like a percentage off the top because she was buying so many. Um, if you're buying like a collection, so this is something you should think about there. Um, but just so you know, like usually the prices are negotiable at in person and even like in comic shops. Just don't be obnoxious about it. If it's like if you know it's like a $500 book, don't offer $10 for it. But you could like if it's $500 book, you want to try to get it for 450 or even 400 or whatever. Um, just take it by that. So so summing up, basically, you know, when you think about pricing, it has to be like there are tiers of pricing. There are pricing for like the most expensive books, like the key books and stuff like this, and there's pricing for the more common books, and everywhere in between there. Um, just know where the comic book you want to buy falls in that area, or the comic book your loved one wants to buy falls in that area, and you'll have a better leg up. Um, and also like do a little prep work beforehand if you know exactly what issue you want. Try to find out what the value is of the comic book before you even start out on this process. Um, you'll be surprised to find maybe you find stuff that's in like in a convention that's lower than eBay price. Or you might find something on eBay that actually sells for less than the average eBay price. Basically, shop around. Um, so don't be too scared about like worrying about like you getting the right value for the comic book. Um, the value in comic book, and this is going to sound trite and idiotic and like that. The value in the comic book is what the collector puts into it. It's how he feels towards it. So if you buy a key book for 50 cents, or you buy a key book for $5,000, if you give it to your loved one and he loves it, it has all the value in the world. Um, if you have any further questions on this, I think I try to cover as much as I possibly can in this segment. Um, put some in the comments. I will try to monitor it and try to fill you in whatever possible. Maybe if I come up with something like I think of something after this is over, and like, oh, I should have said that. I will try to put that in there. Uh, but yeah, if you like this, please like it. If you like this series, you want to continue this along, subscribe. And if you think other people might like this, share it. That all helps with like trying me to keep this thing going and try to make it a little bit better if we can. So um, thank you very much. Have a good day. I'll see you in the next installment of the Girlfriend's Guide of Collecting Comics, or two comics. I forget what I titled the thing. But in the meantime, keep collecting.